So, hello everyone. Um, it's the week of the big book fair in Brussels. And because I didn't have the time to go, I thought I'll honor it by not using slides to illustrate my presentation, but to use a few of my favorite books. So, I have them here for you now. My talk today will be about a subject that is related to technology, but it's not directly about technology. And my talk is about liquid organizations. And the story starts when I had my first job. In my first job, I was a developer. I was writing software. And I was working with a big company of 4,000 people who were making software that could let telephones ring, telephone software. And we had our first project, and we were very eager, and we finished it a bit early. So we had some time to spare. And we started experimenting with this new technology called IP. And we had the idea of transferring this voice over this IP channel. And a few months later, we had a product that allowed people to go home and take all of the stuff on their desk with them and connect it just using a simple internet line. And that was amazing. And of course, there was no one prepared to bring this product to the market because we just invented it. There was no one wanting this. There was no one that had ordered this product. So I set out and I was looking in this organization, who can use this for something? And I found a couple of salespeople who said, well, my customers, they are waiting for such a solution since a long time. And I went with these salespeople to a fair where I could demonstrate the solution. And on this fair, I demonstrated it and I sold two customers. So 2 customers were using this. And I was thrilled because our solution was finally taking off. Until a couple of months later, a product manager came to me. And this product manager says, "Are you Koen?" I said, "Yes." "Well, go back to your department, go back to do development, because this solution will not hit the market. I have been working," he said, "for 2 years to strike a partnership with an outside supplier who has a solution, who does more or less the same thing. It's not over IP, it's not such a modern thing, it's 10 times more expensive, so we will use that solution, because if we use your solution, we will lose 10 times the revenue." And I was very, very disappointed because we had such a great innovation and it had to go down the bin because the company wasn't ready for it. And my mentor at that time gave me this first book. It's called The Innovators Dilemma, and it's describing exactly why big companies fail to innovate and fail to use technology disruption to their advantage. And I can explain this book very simple to you by using this simple camera I have here. It's 12 years old. It's my first digital compact camera. And this thing is taking pictures. And in the meanwhile, of course, the manufacturers of digital compact cameras have had some innovations, had some technology evolutions, because now they have cameras that can actually take pictures. So the only thing that has changed, they have been adding feature and feature after feature to keep competitive, to stay competitive. And now you have, instead of simple face detection, you have 9 face detection, and Sony then comes out with 16 face detection. And all they're doing is they're outracing each other to the top, where there is no one interested in this anymore. Because what is happening, at a certain moment, you see a disruptive technology come along, mobile phones with built-in cameras, and at a certain moment, these become just good enough for most people to say, I don't need these simple cameras anymore. It's still working. And it's a good picture. So what this means is actually that big companies are not capable of innovating because they want to keep their current revenue and they want to keep growing bigger and bigger. And of course, the authors of this book, they also made a second book. So this is where they state this is a problem. They have the book where they say, we have a solution for it. And this is what shaped the first years of my career, the innovator solution. I was so proud to be able to help these big companies to sustain their innovation and to keep on growing. But this year, I'm actually saying farewell to these books. I don't believe them anymore. Because what they do is they make companies bigger. They make structures more fixed. They make sure that by using matrix organizations and innovation departments and dotted line structures and change management and whatever, that people are fitted into a system without having anything to say in it. And why I'm saying goodbye to these books is because they're actually making people unhappy. Most of you are students here and you don't know that, but 90% of the people that are working in companies are deeply unhappy. They get into their car in the morning, They are 8 hours at work acting like a zombie, and then they're happy to come home again. And that's a very big problem in our society. We organize work in big companies, in fixed structures, and everyone is unhappy in it. And if you should doubt that, you should read all of the other books I bought for you here. This is a book that's called Rework, where Jason Fried is explaining why business planning and why making this fixed structure is actually killing our companies. This is a book that's very important, it's very nice to read. It's about drive. Daniel Pink is telling us what motivates people. Actually, if you don't want to read the book, just read this first flap here. It's telling you that the carrot and stick method that you're all used to, if you study well, you will get great points. If you listen to the rules, you will not get fired. This is the carrot and the stick. This is not motivating people. This is not helping. What is motivating people is autonomy. The power to do what you want and to organize your work yourself. What is motivating people is mastery. Having the feeling that you're becoming good at something. He's great. He's doing this very well. Also purpose. That's the third thing that's motivating people. Making sure that you have a purpose and that what you're doing, that your organization is doing something good for society. These are things that motivate people, and we don't use them in management today. So when you go to work in a couple of years' time, you will be exposed to a system that is actually demotivating you. And I have a couple of more books here. Starfish and the Spider, very interesting. It's talking about the power of leaderless organizations. How you can have big organizations without any leader that can keep on growing and that can compete with companies. Very interesting. Another nice book is when you want to have something personally for yourself. It's called Linchpin. It's telling you how you can enter a big organization and make yourself indispensable, really make a difference. More people should read this. You see, it's a bit like the book fair here. So you don't need to go to Brussels. I'm doing it all here. One of my favorite books is the book of Zappos, Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. And Zappos is very famous for being the company that is making their customers very happy, a bit like Mobile Vikings, 100% focused on customer care. But that's not really why I admire Zappos so well. Why I admire them is because when you enter the company, 100% of the people in that company are happy. The employees are happy, and that is for me the success of the companies. All of the employees are happy to work there, and that of course has its effect on the services they deliver. And the last book I want to promote here is the Dutch version of it, is Ik was een schaap by Jeff Staes, who is explaining how this is happening here in Belgium in a book that is written in Dutch and it is very easy to understand, and it's also making the link from the educational system, which we just saw, to the business system. And this is actually just all these books I'm using to convince you we really have a problem here. What all these books are doing is they're basically saying the same thing. Everyone that goes to work is unhappy, or the most people are unhappy, because there is a disconnect between the tasks they're doing every day and the value that is created for the customer. You have a task, but you don't know what effect it has on the services or the products of the company. The disconnect between the tasks you do and the value your company is creating, that is what is making you unhappy. You don't feel valued. And that is what is making people unhappy. Now, luckily, we have a solution for that. And that is where my liquid organization comes in. The solution, of course, lies in the social media revolution. No, social media is going to solve everything. And what the liquid organization model is saying is quite simple. What do you do when you use, for example, Facebook? Yeah? What you do is you share with people what you're doing. You are looking for people who are going to say, hey, that's nice. You're looking for like-minded individuals to get confirmation of what you're doing each day is good. You're looking for some bonding. Well, what in a liquid organization will happen, and what I already see happening with a few companies that we're working with, is that more and more people from all kinds of departments are sharing what they're doing in their job outside of the company and finding some resonance there. Finding some interactions with other individuals that have the same problems and maybe solving their problems together. They're finding some connection with people that have the same stupid job, and they're finding ways to change that job or to make their job more interesting. And that is very important, because once you get a connection to someone in the outside world that is interested in what you're doing, you start valued again. And it may sound strange, but for every stupid task, even if it's putting out the garbage or cleaning the hallway or whatever, there is someone out there who is interested in what you're doing. There's always someone interested in what you're doing. And finding that person or finding those people will make you more valued and will make you more successful in your job. So I use the terminology liquid organization for that. What is a liquid organization? That is, of course, an organization that no longer has any secrets, because every one of the employees is communicating directly to customers, to partners, to suppliers, and sometimes even to competitors. This is an organization that haven't seen anywhere yet, not to its fullest extent, but it is an organization that has no public relations department, for example, because everyone can speak for themselves. It's an organization that doesn't need any marketing anymore, because the people who work in the organization, they are the marketing force of the people. Of course, they need some guidance, they need some rules, they need some support, but it is largely an organization that is represented by all of the individual employees. Now, you might wonder, haven't I heard this before? And I have thought about this as well. Where have I seen these same mechanisms and this same model before? Anyone? What I see here is the same mechanisms that we see with the Penguin, Tux, Linux. The open source community for years has been working like that. So open source is a way of developing software, technology people that have been working together across the boundaries of companies. They have been working on organizational methods without any supervision, without anyone centrally controlling them, to come to productivity, to organize themselves and to deliver output. They have come to find methods to have appraisal for value. So when someone does something, he gets some return for it. Like we do in companies, we get paid for it. And that is actually the organizational model that we find in open source software. We are going to see that these models are going to be applied to business in general. And that is very interesting, because then we see that people start to get motivated again. Because in open source, people are working because they are liking their job, not because they're being told to do that. And why is that so? Why did we reach this point that this is now possible? It's very simple. Developers always have had access to great tools. They have had access to IRC chat. They had access to things like Stack Overflow or platforms to publish their code and everything. But it was all very technical, all very complicated. For ordinary people, they could not use these collaborative tools. They were simply too complicated. With social media platforms that we have today, people can collaborate without any problem. I see in organizations people collaborating using tools like Jammer, using tools like Ripple. People get appraisal for each other's work. I even see companies that organize themselves by using private Facebook groups. And all of these things make that corporate structures are slowly changing, and that people from the bottom can come with innovation and bring it to the top and bring it to the outside of the company. So basically what I want to ask you, and why I'm here today, is because I've always been a bit disappointed. Because since a year or 4 or 5, I've been, each time when I see students, I've been saying the same words. And these words are, you are the first digital natives, and you will now come in the workforce, and you will change everything. That's the idea most management people have. That will happen. And what I've seen in reality is, it didn't happen. Most of you will go in the workforce and you will blend in. You will just blend in with what everyone is asking for you, and you will use the same things, and you will make the same presentations and reports and everything that is desired from you. I'm not saying you shouldn't fit in, you should fit in, otherwise you will never get hired. But you have to think very carefully what motivates you today. And yes, you should do your job, but make sure that next to the job description you have, the official function you need to fulfill, that you still have some idea, some own project. You have to find someone in the company you work that shares your passion and says, hey, let's do this thing together, and organize yourselves using social media. And thinking again of my little voice over IP project, I can only think if I would have had social media to get some awareness for my project outside the company, to get a movement of customers that says, yes, I want it, it would have been unstoppable. And that is my wish today, that you would go out in a job and that you would use this social media thing to free yourself from the corporate burden. And that is basically what I wanted to tell you here today. Thank you.